Many of you are intimately familiar with a quiet, devastating hemorrhage that begins the moment the sun rises. You open your heavy eyes in the morning, before your feet even touch the cold floor of your bedroom, before you have taken a single intentional breath to align your spirit. Your hand reaches into the dark to find your phone. The screen lights up, and in that exact fraction of an instant, a silent tragedy begins. You scroll through the artificial lives of strangers. You absorb the chaotic, fabricated outrage of the daily news. You reply to messages from individuals who do not elevate your existence. By the time you finally stand up to face the physical world, you are already profoundly, inexplicably exhausted. You carry a lingering fog in your brain, a subtle emptiness in your chest, and a profound lack of drive to conquer your own destiny. You look in the mirror and wonder why the fire has left your eyes. The sovereign mind must look at this quiet tragedy through the unforgiving, clinical lens of human neurobiology and ancient martial philosophy. Do not mistake this chronic exhaustion for a mere lack of sleep, and do not casually dismiss it as laziness. You are not inherently lazy, you are being violently harvested. Your biological drive, your central nervous system, and your primitive dopamine receptors have been entirely hijacked by a modern, predatory ecosystem. Society has carefully engineered a matrix that does not care about your bank account. It is hunting for a currency infinitely more valuable than money. It is hunting for your absolute life force. It is hunting for your chi. Today we will dismantle the architecture of this silent theft. We will reveal the 4 laws of energetic sovereignty. Pay absolute, undivided attention to the discourse today, because the 4th and final law, the execution of the Iron Dam, is the exact, terrifying coordinate where 99% of modern men and women completely fail. It is the threshold that demands a level of martial selfishness that the modern ego is terrified to possess. If you are ready to stop the bleeding, lock the vault, and reclaim your empire, walk with me now. To cure this modern plague, we must first incinerate a catastrophic misunderstanding of human energy. This brings us to the first law, the ultimate sin of false generosity. When the ancient masters of Taoism and the Shaolin temple spoke of qi, the modern Western mind mistakenly reduced it to a mystical, invisible cloud of magic. We must ground this concept in the cold, hard reality of modern biology. Your qi is your cellular ATP. It is your testosterone, your cognitive bandwidth, your emotional resilience, and the fragile, highly limited reserves of your daily dopamine. It is the finite battery of your physical and spiritual vessel. You wake up every single day with a strictly limited amount of this gold in your internal vault. The greatest, most devastating sin committed by the modern man and woman is not anger, it is not pride, and it is not greed. The ultimate sin of our generation is the voluntary, reckless squandering of this gold. It is the sin of gifting your chi to things that give you absolutely zero purpose in return. You treat your vital life force as if it were cheap, endless water flowing from a public fountain. You give your absolute attention to meaningless digital entertainment that numbs your mind. You invest massive amounts of emotional energy worrying about the opinions of people whose character you do not even respect. You sit in traffic, violently bleeding your chi by screaming at a situation you cannot mathematically control. You give your purest, most potent energy to employers who view you as a disposable number and to toxic relationships that treat you as an emotional landfill. You call yourself generous. You tell yourself that you are keeping the peace or simply relaxing. You must realize the dark, unforgiving truth. You do not kill time. Time kills you. Every single time you engage with a low-frequency distraction, every time you react to a piece of manufactured drama, you are walking up to a psychological beggar, opening the heavy iron vault of your life, and handing them a solid gold coin of your destiny in exchange for absolutely nothing. You are funding your own destruction. We must visualize the tragic consequence of this reckless generosity through the unforgiving laws of nature. This brings us to the second law of energetic sovereignty, the metaphor of the diverted river. Imagine a magnificent, violent, high-altitude river. This river represents your uncorrupted chi, channeled entirely toward your highest purpose. When millions of gallons of water are confined within a narrow, highly focused path, the water moves with terrifying, unstoppable velocity. It does not matter what stands in its way. Over time, the focused, pressurized water will effortlessly slice through solid granite. It will carve a magnificent, towering canyon out of the earth. The river achieves absolute mastery over its environment precisely because it refuses to spread out. It refuses to be diluted. But what happens when you introduce the modern mind to this magnificent river? Instead of allowing the water to flow with absolute, violent focus toward its ultimate destiny, the modern individual begins to dig hundreds of shallow, meaningless trenches along the riverbanks. You dig one trench for your addiction to social media validation. You dig another trench for your obsession with political arguments on the internet. You dig a trench for the toxic friend who constantly needs you to listen to their self-created drama. You dig a massive trench for your habit of overthinking past mistakes that you cannot change. With every trench you dig, a massive volume of the water is diverted away from the main current. What is the inevitable biological result? The river loses its immense velocity. It loses its terrifying pressure. The water no longer has the concentrated power to cut through the solid rock of your goals. Instead of carving a magnificent canyon, the mighty river slows down, spreads out, and transforms into a shallow, stagnant, freezing swamp. Look closely at the landscape of your current life. Are you a highly pressurized river cutting through the resistance of the world, or are you a stagnant, exhausted swamp, spread entirely too thin over 100 different useless directions? When you complain that you do not have the discipline to build your business, that you do not have the drive to sculpt your physical body, or that you do not have the emotional depth to cultivate a truly profound, magnetic romantic relationship, you are lying to yourself. You possess the exact same biological hardware, the exact same neurochemistry, and the exact same daily cycle as the masters who conquer the world. You do not lack potential. You do not lack talent. You lack the martial discipline to close the trenches. You are bleeding your potential into the mud, one shallow distraction at a time. To reverse this catastrophic decay, we must step out of the geography of the river and plunge directly into the microscopic, electrical storms of your own central nervous system. We must understand exactly how the modern world tricks you into picking up the shovel and digging the trenches in the first place. The human brain is an ancient, highly evolved survival machine, fundamentally hardwired to constantly scan the environment for threats. In the primitive world, when you perceived a threat, a predator in the shadows, or a sudden loud noise, a small, almond-shaped structure in your brain called the amygdala would violently fire. It would flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline, demanding an immediate, physical reaction to keep you alive. Today, you are no longer hunted by predators in the forest, but your primitive biology has not changed. The modern world understands your neurochemistry perfectly, and it has built an entire economy designed to trigger your amygdala artificially, hundreds of times a day. When you read a highly inflammatory comment on the internet, when a colleague makes a subtle, passive-aggressive remark, or when the daily news cycle broadcasts a carefully engineered panic, your amygdala registers a lethal threat. It screams for an immediate emotional response. And here is the fatal, tragic biological flaw. Reacting feels productive to the primitive brain. Getting angry, typing a furious paragraph in a comment section, engaging in toxic gossip, or aggressively defending your ego provides a rapid, cheap hit of dopamine. It makes you feel temporarily powerful, righteous, and active. But this is a devastating neurobiological illusion. You are not powerful. You are a biological puppet dancing precisely on the strings of the provocation. Every single time you react to a stimulus that does not serve your ultimate, sovereign purpose, you suffer an amygdala hijack. Your prefrontal cortex, the biological seat of your logic, your martial discipline, and your sovereign will is violently shut down. In that exact moment of emotional reaction, you are taking a heavy bucket, dipping it into the pure waters of your vital chi, and throwing it into the mud. You are biologically handing over the keys of your internal vault to the person, the algorithm, or the memory that provoked you. They did not steal your life force. You willingly opened the heavy door and handed them the gold. The true Shaolin master, the sovereign emperor of the mind, practices the profound, terrifying art of non-reaction. True power is not the ability to strike back with immense, chaotic force. True power is the absolute, unshakable stillness in the face of extreme provocation. It is the martial discipline to observe the chaos, to feel the intense biological urge to react burning in your chest, and to consciously choose to let the provocation pass through you like wind through the trees, completely undisturbed. When you master non-reaction, you stop digging the shallow trenches. You refuse to leak your energy. You keep the heavy water in the river, but understanding the dark neurobiology of your own reactivity is entirely useless if you do not possess the visceral courage to enforce the cure. Recognizing the leak does not stop the ship from sinking. To stop the catastrophic hemorrhage of your life force, you must execute a maneuver that the modern world will deeply despise. You must cross the final, most brutal threshold of human liberation. The modern advice industry has heavily weaponized the concept of empathy. It tells you to be endlessly compassionate, to give your energy freely, and to always remain accessible to those who are suffering. It preaches that preserving your energy at the expense of others is a profound moral failing. Therefore, if you refuse to give your attention to toxic family members, chaotic friends, or the endless, meaningless demands of society, you are quickly labeled as selfish, arrogant, and cold. The sovereign mind must completely incinerate and redefine the concept of selfishness. To be ruthlessly selfish with your chi is not a crime. It is the highest, absolute biological imperative of anyone who intends to build a legacy of true value. Consider the fundamental laws of architecture. A master builder cannot construct a towering, magnificent cathedral if he is constantly giving away his premium stones and mortar to every beggar who walks past the construction site. You cannot forge an empire of profound purpose. You cannot elevate your family, and you cannot master your own soul if your energetic vault is constantly open to the public. The execution of the Iron Dam is the absolute non-negotiable blockade of your energy. It is the immediate, brutal severing of all the shallow trenches you have dug along the riverbanks of your life. You do not slowly reduce your exposure to distractions. You do not attempt to gently negotiate with the energy vampires. You do not write emotional apologies to the individuals who are addicted to feeding on your life force, explaining why you are stepping back. You simply build a massive, impenetrable wall of dense iron. You cut the access. You starve the distractions. When you drop the Iron Dam, the people, the habits, and the algorithms that survived by draining your swamp will aggressively rebel. They will call you cruel. They will try to manipulate you with guilt. They will violently hit the iron wall, demanding the free energy they are accustomed to receiving. You must observe their panic with cold, stoic detachment. A parasite's hunger is absolutely never the host's responsibility. Your only sacred responsibility is the velocity of your own river. But the hardest battle will not be against the external world. The true war will be waged against your own addicted neurochemistry. When you suddenly stop engaging in the cheap drama, when you stop scrolling for dopamine, and when you refuse to participate in the exhausting, familiar arguments, your primitive brain will experience a severe chemical withdrawal. Because you are no longer leaking energy into the shallow trenches, the water level in your river will begin to rapidly rise. The pressure will build. You will feel a massive, overwhelming surge of unspent chi coursing through your veins. This raw, concentrated energy will feel highly uncomfortable at first. Your ego will scream at you to open the dam, just a little bit, just to relieve the pressure, just to feel the familiar, numb safety of the swamp. You must sit perfectly still inside that pressure. You must endure the uncomfortable, heavy silence of the vault until you remember what it feels like to possess the terrifying, unstoppable force of an emperor. When you finally sit perfectly still inside that immense pressure, allowing the heavy waters of your chi to rise and accumulate behind the Iron Dam, a new, entirely different kind of pain will emerge. This is the ultimate crucible of the sovereign mind. Many individuals who reach this profound stage of realization experience a heavy, almost suffocating period of mourning. When the noise of the distractions finally stops, you are forced to look back at the timeline of your own existence. You see the vast oceans of chi, the thousands of solid gold coins of your vital life force that you willingly handed over to meaningless arguments, toxic environments, and digital illusions. The sheer magnitude of the wasted potential can threaten to crush a fragile mind. You realize how many empires you could have built with the energy you bled into the mud. But the true Stoic master does not drown in the grief of the past. The sovereign mind understands that this heavy remorse is not a punishment. It is the brutal, necessary initiation of wisdom. Every single drop of energy you wasted was the agonizing tuition fee required for you to finally learn the absolute value of your own vault. You are not a helpless victim of lost years. You are a seasoned warrior who has finally awakened to the unforgiving physics of your own power. The bleeding has officially stopped. The era of false generosity is dead. The illusion of the harmless distraction has been completely incinerated. You have witnessed the catastrophic decay of the diverted river, the neurobiological trap of your own reactivity, and the absolute, terrifying necessity of the iron dam. You are no longer a psychological beggar funding your own destruction. You are the unshakable emperor of your own energetic vault. So, I leave you with one final, piercing reality to confront as the screen fades to black and the heavy silence of the real world returns. Tomorrow morning, the absolute certainty of the test will arrive. The world will approach you like a starving beggar. A digital notification will flash. A toxic comment will be spoken. A meaningless, chaotic drama will present itself at your feet, demanding your attention. In that exact fraction of an instant, you will be holding a solid gold coin of your vital chi in your hand. It is the raw, concentrated currency of your ultimate destiny. When that moment echoes through the silent courtyard of your consciousness, what exactly will you do? Will you automatically open your hand, drop the gold into the mud of a useless reaction, and remain an exhausted servant to the chaos? Or will you possess the visceral, martial discipline to close your fist, lock the heavy iron vault, and use that gold to forge a legacy that the universe cannot ignore? The choice is yours. The path is open. Ami Tuofo.